Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Mindset You. I'm Jason Moreno. We got Rances to the right of me, I think. I did it wrong. I did it wrong. I did it wrong. This is staying in. If you guys watch this, you do know I have a problem figuring out my directions. But I was able to have a great conversation with Rances today about my trip to Florida and about self-awareness and realizing that I need to be more present in my family's lives. And I think we had a good talk about establishing change and noticing it. I think it's super helpful. It helped me. This is my therapy, guys. So just listen. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Don't forget to check out VidaProject.com. Enjoy the show. One thing I did learn a lot about is that my family has very different communication styles. And watching my cousin and his family, they just yell. Like that's their thing. They just yell at each other, and it's just like this is so stressful. This is so. Why are you guys yelling at each other right now?
That reminds me because like with all my siblings, I know I have 3 siblings live with me, and like I remember I have this one memory of my dad coming home, and he just came home and was super pissed. We were in the living room watching TV, and he didn't even say anything. He just walked in, grabbed the TV, and slammed it to the ground, like the old tube TVs. Yeah. And I was just like, what the? And it's like, that just reminded me of that. I was like, there's no middle ground. It's just like 1,000 or 0.
Dude, it's so funny. That's exactly it. It's just like they're either super sweet and everybody's getting real along, and the next thing you know, you're like, whoa, where is this coming from? Like, why? Why are you letting this just ruin?
Yeah. And it's like, you've never said anything before.
It's so funny. They're just so particular about like certain things, like how they want things. And you're just like, guys, how do you manage this? How is this manageable? Like you make it work. But like, is that why you lost your hair? Like, is that why you're bald, bro? Like you used to have long hair. What is this?
But I think that to me, it makes me think of like, number one is you call the communication styles.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it's trauma communication, where when what we see as from the coaching side is like, then these trauma bonds based off of like this type of communication is the only normal, right? If it's like someone's sweet, it's like, nah, there's nothing wrong with that person, So like,
it's so funny.
It's complicated, but there's also the element of like, you mentioned it, like expectations. You have these expectations of this is how things should be, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is with kids that they don't care. You feel like you said something, right? You delivered this message. This is what my expectations are. And the key factor is to understand the forming brain of a child. That just like, just breeze by it. So then you're stuck on this expectation in this child's brain that means nothing. And if you don't know how to work your own expectations and your own shit with that, right? Then you just like explode, right? Like, so.
Yeah.
So that was like,
I find it. Yeah, no, I find it like super interesting because like out of the 5, 3 of them in their 20s. There's a 12-year-old and then the 5-year-old with Down syndrome. So like they rely heavily on the 12-year-old who, looks after her brother all the time. And she's such a great big sister with looking after her brother and stuff like that. But I think that since there's such a big age gap between like her older siblings and her, that they think that she's older and they expect more from her, than what she's actually capable of. Not capable of, because I mean she does a great job of being a big sister, but it's like she doesn't get that like that nurturing aspect that like a normal 12-year-old would.
That's a huge thing. So like, for example, I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
It's a very different experience for both of them. Like my 8-year-old, the expectations on her are way higher than it was on my 11-year-old when he was 8.
Yeah.
Because of that connection. And I even talked to my son about that. About his expectations on his younger sister. It's like, dude, when you were 8, you were terrified to cross the street without holding my hand. She's out here on the streets right now.
Yeah.
And like, that's a huge difference. But he's like, but she's going through it with me. So she has the same experiences. It's like, no, because she's still 8 years old going through the experiences, but she's still 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I see that happen, especially like, when you have the older siblings and stuff like that. I feel like there's two possibilities where, like in my family, I'm the youngest, but I'm the youngest by like a lot. So it's almost like all my older siblings became more parent figures for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So then I was like babied when I was smaller. I was like babied because I was everyone's baby. But then my brother who came from DR, he's 5 years older than me. Then the expectations of him were like way beyond. Like he was 7 years old. I was 2, when he came from DR. And it's like the expectations of him without the background, without the upbringing in our family at all, like they were all the way up here. Yeah. So, and he was, he was a kid from the streets in DR.
Yeah. So
then you had this whole thing. Now, the other side of it that I also see and I've experienced myself is when you have a kid that's like bigger, that's just like seems to grow taller, or even personality wise, like kids that speak clearly and stuff like that, or say sayings that sound like an adult, then you like project this like adult on them. And I remember experiencing something like this when I was a teenager. I was 14 actually, and I was in DR taking care of a nephew of mine, and he was 4 years old, but he spoke like a grown Dominican man. Right, he had all the sayings and like says, right. And I remember like this experience through the summer. I spent so much time with him. I used to get upset like with him, like, "What are you doing? Like,
why are you acting like a kid?"
Yeah. And one day when I saw him, he was like, "No, I'm gonna water the plants." And it's like, "No, you don't have to water the plants." He's like, "No, Mama told me that I have to water the plants. Right? Grandma told me I have to water the plants." It's like, all right. And I see this little kid turn on the hose, right? And something that little kids do, which is like look at the hose and then spray themselves in the face, and they're trying to get away from it while still holding it towards their face. And it was that moment that I saw him panicking by that I was like, oh my God, he's a baby. And it was like a smack in the face. Yeah. So it's like, that's also really hard when you have that like expectation, like you said, with your cousin.
Yeah. Yeah, especially she's super tall. She's almost taller than me. She sounds like a 16-year-old when she talks. Like it's real easy to talk to her. But like me and Ash like made like a real like our emphasis on this trip was to take her and show her like this experience. So like she's such a great big sister and they expect a lot of her. And it's just like I wanted her to be a kid.
Yeah.
And it was like so much fun to take her on these different things. And it cost us so much money. It costs so much money. Me and Ash had this like one discussion like towards the end of the trip when she looked at her joint account and she was like, how did we spend this much money? And I was like, how like you always talk about like at work, you have to decide everything and that you love this whole Disney thing because I literally plan everything. I was like, you do realize that like not waiting on lines, doing all this stuff, like that costs money. I was like, so you want this happy-go-lucky experience? Papa brought it. It comes at a price, kind of thing, But like, it was so much fun to like single her out and show her like this really good time. Like everything that she wanted to do, even stuff that she wasn't even sure about. She's real picky when it comes to food. And I was able to get her to be like, just try. If you don't like it, you can have my food. Kind of thing. But like stuff that I would see her fight her parents on just because of the way that they would go about it. She was so much more accepting when it was me and Ash. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just because, like that's like their whole dynamic and stuff like that. And she's a kid and she's at that age where she's like, fuck you, mom.
Mhm.
She just wants to fight with her mom all the time kind of thing, or like her older siblings.
Yeah.
But like they're the kind of there's so much, we're all so alike in the sense that like when somebody starts freaking out, we're like, ooh, you're freaking out. The fucking baby's freaking out. Somebody get the baby a bottle kind of thing. That we get real condescending. And like I noticed it seeing the older siblings do it to her. Like for example, like the older brother like brought her like the wrong drink and she like had like a little freak out kind of thing. And the older sibling was like, I'm just gonna walk away from this bitch. And I was like, bro, just tell her it's your bad. And like that's it. Like, I'm sorry, it's fine. But like,
Yeah. But there's always that
I,
that kind of leverage of like, no, I'm not gonna apologize to my younger sibling or even
yeah,
for you
like
being a
I
brat.
got you the wrong to deal with it. Like that's her thing. Just deal with it. And it's like, yeah, no, of course she's gonna deal with it. But like you do realize that she's freaking out and you're pushing her kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then Ash was like, you all do that in this family. And I was like, oh yeah, we do. Yeah. That's
It's only
something we
because
do.
you're seeing it from like this protective side of her that you're like recognizing, like, hey, stop it.
And then like I was talking to the older siblings. And I was like, look, you guys are like hard on her. Like I know she's a pain in the ass. She's 12. She's a
Mhm.
12 girl. She's gonna be a pain in the ass. We all know that kind of thing. Like, yeah, but you don't deal with her all the time. I'm like, I get that. And then my cousin like, you used to waterboard me when I was a child. And I was like, yeah, I did do that. You were kind of annoying. It was a lot of fun to torture you. He was like, yeah, you see? And I was like, yeah, but like, don't monkey see, monkey do. Like, I was
um,
like, I did that to you because your dad did that to me. I thought I was just passing it down. Break the cycle.
so there's an interesting thing that you mentioned there, that she's like more receptive to what you offered her
Yeah.
and suggested. But that's not just like within family thing. That's really the way to get people to kind of to be able to influence them and get them to do what you want them to do, right?
Yeah.
It's the saying, attract more bees with honey than with vinegar, right? It's that same thing. What's happening there is that when you step up for her, or when you even show understanding, that then shows, hey, I can trust you. So now you suggest something and it's like, yeah, you got my back, I trust you.
Yeah.
When everyone else is like, no, you do what I said because I said so, then you start building that natural defense. That happens with adults
Yeah.
everywhere.
No, it's wild. It's so funny, like seeing it in real time and having
Mhm,
asked her as like as she's part of the family now. She's
mhm.
but she's new to this whole side of the family kind of thing. And she was like, "You're all alike." She goes, "You're all just varying stages of kind of meanness, but in this like really nice, funny way. But some of you are just like, whoa, dude, like
Mm.
chill." And it's funny because I haven't seen my uncle in a while, my cousin's stepdad. And I remember when we were younger, he was like, I'll never be like Pops. I'll never be like Joe. I'll never. They are so alike to the very T. Like how I'm alike with my dad. These two are alike, but they're just so militant and so particular in their fucking ways of everything that they do. Like my uncle refuses to get anything delivered. He's like, I'll just go pick it up. I'm like, yeah, but like we're all hanging out. Come chill in the pool still. You don't have to get up to go get the groceries. It's called Instacart.
Mhm.
It's fine. Like
A principle.
it's all principle with him, and it's so funny. To see my cousin who's exactly like that now.
Do you
It's
make
so
fun of him
funny.
about it?
Oh, all the time. I was like, oh, fucking Joe Jr. over here. But it's funny because like my Uncle Joe is like my height, and my
Mhm.
cousin Felix is just like he's just built. He's just a built 6 foot fucking caveman. Ever since we were kids, just grown fucking man. Like I thought like I have solid shoulders. I grabbed him and I was like, Jesus Christ, you're made of marble. You're so strong. And it's just so funny to see him like that. But at the same time, since we were able to take the 12-year-old off their hands, my little cousin Maddie, it gave my cousin and his wife this amazing time to take the 5-year-old Eli and let him experience Disney for the first time, because we were all kind of like, is he gonna like it or is he gonna freak out?
Mhm.
Kind of thing. So we're like, oh, like maybe we'll just go for the park for like 2 hours, and they're like, we'll bring him back.
You
And
said
I
he
kind of
was
felt bad.
autistic?
No, he has Down syndrome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's such a little sweetie, but he's like not really, he's nonverbal. Like
Mhm.
he says a few words, but like you can't have like a real conversation with him.
Mhm.
Um, he's so much fun, but he's a lot. He's a handful.
Mhm.
My favorite thing that he does is that when he's excited, he likes to strip and run around the house and dance. And it is amazing because it comes at random times and it's so much fun. Um, and so he's a handful. He doesn't like loud sounds. He gets a little crazy. He gets a little, if there's like a lot of crowds, like waiting in line and stuff like that is a hassle. But what worked for them so well, and since, it's just the three of them that they were able to navigate all the kids' rides, is that Disney offers this thing that if you have a child with a disability,
Mhm.
you could kind of like skip the lines and stuff like that and
Yeah.
stuff. So
Remember I told
they
you
were
that,
able,
that I told you
what?
that when I was in Universal and Legoland. And
Oh
for
yeah,
me and for my son, we
yeah.
got all that for the
Oh,
family
that's
pictures.
awesome. You're
Yeah.
coming with me to Disney next time, so I don't have to spend all this money and go in the front of the lines, buddy. So, but yeah, like that's, but like, so it was something that gave my cousin and his wife, I could see like this ease, come from them, because I remember in the morning seeing them like get ready to go to the park. He's like, he looks like he's ready to go to war. I'm like, bro, you're going to Disney. Like, I get, you're like, holy shit, like, but like we would meet up with them like in the afternoon kind of thing, and to like see him like all fucking happy, and to see my nephew all happy and see all of them in a good mood. I'm like, all right, cool. We're gonna take Maddie and we're gonna go do our thing. We'll see you guys later. Half the time they stayed at the park later with Eli than we ever thought, than everybody.
Mhm.
They would go from like opening to close with him, and he was just fucking ecstatic. Um, so it was so much fun to go back to like our whole village thing, and to be able to help out and to be able to give back to the village, not just with like planning this whole trip,
Yeah.
but like giving these fucking, they're all full of stress, to give him like this, you can relax. This is what vacation is for. Relaxing and having fun with your family. It doesn't have to be this constant like, we gotta do this and we're on a schedule. Have fun. And it was just so much fun to see them to unwind in the park and stuff like that, and to take Maddie on these different experiences. And it almost made me want a kid. It almost made me want a
Oh,
kid. And
except
then
you saw the bank account.
no, the bank account is, it's Disney, so you know that what it's going to be, because regardless, it was just paying for an extra person for all these things that me and Ash would have done anyway.
Mm.
Um, but no, because we just had the good times, kind of thing, and then it was one night me and Ash went out to the parks by ourselves. We had this like one pass to go to like Magic Kingdom, and it was late night. You can go to the park from like 7 to 12 a.m. It was like for like their Halloween thing. So me and Ash went, and it was a great time. And there's this dad in front of us with these two kids on Space Mountain, and they were the sweetest kids in the world. There's hi, everybody who walked past them. Hi, I like your costume. I like your costume. I like your costume, to every person that walked by. And then it got to the point that they got fixated on me and Ash, and they talked to us for 45 minutes on this ride. And the dad's just like, I'm sorry. He's like, they just talk to everybody. He goes, this is their first time here. And he goes, they're having such a great time. He goes, but they're on stimulus overload. And he goes, I don't know what to do. I don't want to, he goes, no offense, but like, I don't want to talk to you guys. And I was like, he goes, but they're forcing me to talk to everybody. I was like, dude, I get you, man. Like, it was so funny to see it. And then it started him talking. I was like, oh, they get it from you. You just don't realize it.
Yeah. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe, like below, comment, let us know your thoughts, and continue to enjoy. We've talked about that in the past, about like that that mirror that you see with your kids. And it's interesting because you say like he doesn't realize it. You talked about your cousin not realizing that he's behaving just like everything he vowed not to behave.
Yep.
But that's super interesting because from my perspective is like, as soon as I see my kid doing something, then I'm like, yo, that's fucked up. I'm like, shit, that's me. You know. And it's I guess it's like certain, maybe it has a lot to do with like the fact that you know, I do so much recordings and stuff like that where I get to kind of observe myself, you know, when I'm editing. I get to see myself from like the outside in, right? So then when I see my son behaving in a certain way or saying certain things, I'm like, damn, you know, I know because I've seen myself in video doing that.
There's literally footage of you. Like, there's
Exactly. I can't deny it. And
yeah,
it's
there's no denial of it. That's like that's the one thing I did notice too, that you say that of like editing and like watching myself all the time. I'm like, I notice the patterns of certain things that I do and sayings that I say, and I'm like, this drives me fucking insane. If I had more time, I'd edit out every time I say yeah, and every time I say something like that, or I forgot what it
I
is.
know
Or
it is.
stuff like that.
Yeah, and stuff like that. You finish up the sentence, you just
It's always that, and it drives me fucking insane. I hate that I
like
know
stuff
that
like
now.
that. And because like, you know, because it does things like stuff like that.
Dude, I notice it so much now, and I hate that I know it. I wish like ignorance is bliss, and I'm glad that I do know it because it just makes me get better at trying to catch myself saying it.
Mm-hmm.
But also at the same time, like I could have went my whole life not knowing it and just let people talk about it and just been happy.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think that's huge. For me, there was something that I used to do that I never even knew I did it because it was the time we had someone else editing for us. And then one day he just told me, and then he's like, I made a little clip for you, like basically all the times, put them together. And I used to do this thing of like sucking through my teeth. Like when I was taking a breath in, I'll go, and I would literally do it like at the end of every sentence. And it was with him showing me that. I was like, oh my God, I really do that? Like he told me, I was like, nah, that's bull. And then he showed me the clip and I was like, I don't think I did it. Like from that moment, I became aware. But I think that's a huge point, which I kind of like it because the idea of awareness, right? When you want to make a change with the way you behave with other people, with the way you like you were saying, you say certain phrases, right, that become so automatic. It really requires awareness first, like that first step to creating any type of change. And you know, back to like our concept mindset shifting and such, that is step one. But that itself doesn't create the change. Is when you have those emotions right towards it, like you said, you're like, you hate that you do that, you like, you want to edit it out, right? So that visceral reaction along with the awareness now puts you in the moment where you're about to say it, or you say it and you're like, you catch it in the moment, and that awareness starts coming to a present time. And once that happens and you're like, and things like that, you get more and more, in tune.
Just end the sentence there.
But that's the attunement, right? Once you get there, then you start making the adjustments. And now it's a thing that you used to do and you've corrected. But now think about, like, this is something simple, right? But think about like what we were just talking about, like the way you interact with the world, right? Like your cousin, right? Being just like his what is his father or his uncle?
Oh, his stepdad, yeah, his dad,
Okay,
his father.
so just like his stepdad, like that's not one little piece of behavior. That's a bunch of connected behaviors, right? So it is hard to make a change because to even become aware of it, like, requires a lot of self-reflection, you know? And then you get to the point where you're either frustrated enough with the outcome of things, right? Where you get that emotional desire to want to make the change, which then leads you to noticing or becoming aware, or maybe it's people outside of you are constantly reminding you of the thing, like you make fun of them about it, right?
Yeah.
And if you're getting the same outcome that you don't want, and you start asking yourself that type of thing, then that's when you have enough momentum, energy, and awareness to start recognizing it and maybe adjusting it. But it takes a lot of work and effort, which makes me think of I wish Moses was here, because his dating experiences, right? Where it took him a while, and then he's like, I keep falling into the same relationship and the same thing. And then he was like, hey, maybe it's me. And then he was able to start making the change.
Yeah. It also made me like look back at myself, because like, me and Ash always say like, we don't want kids, like we're fine not having kids kind of thing. But at the same time, that's fine, and I'm cool with not having kids, but it made me go, "You know what? I need to be a better uncle and a better big cousin to the younger kids in my family, and I need to be more present in their lives." Because those are a lot of the memories that I have from, like, my uncles and aunts who don't have kids. I'm their kid, you know what I mean? And they treat me so special and so kind, they always look out for me kinda thing. And it's something like it made me start like, I need to start doing this for my little cousins. I need to start being present in their lives. I can't just be the cool uncle who shows up for a holiday. How are you doing? You doing good in school? High five. Let's have fun today. Kind of like, I need to be present. And so I have a little cousin here, Nico, who I take out all the time, and he's my clone. He's a 12-year-old, but he's a 45-year-old. He's Rick from Rick and Morty. He's not Morty. He's Rick. Like, that kid is wild. He's the way he thinks. Like, I want to put him on the podcast, but I'm also scared of what he's gonna say. Because there's even times with me that I'm like, dude, don't ever say that to anybody. Even to me, do not say that. You're insane.
It's like that meme. That meme with the little girl. It's like, look at that person on the edge. Someone should just push her off. Like, we don't say that. Why not?
Yes,
like intrusive thought.
Yeah, but like he gets real detailed and he just knows things. I was like, how do you know about this? like that kind of thing. He's like, the internet's a wild place, buddy. I'm like, all right. He's like, I tried to make a bomb the other day. I'm like, excuse me? He's like, just kidding. I was like, are you kidding? He's like, yeah, like I just like to see if things can blow up. And I'm like, buddy, don't blow shit up and don't ever talk about this again. Kind of thing. Like, don't fucking do it.
Just to highlight something for you, Jay, since we talked about it, you've said kind of thing 5 times so far. So the audience, if you want to go back,
you're gonna make the
not enough
vein in my forehead pop out.
Reaction.
Oh, that hurt. That hurt. Okay. Mental note. Thank you. Because in my head, when we were talking about it, I was like, I'm gonna count how many times I say it, and it's gonna be bad. But what I was gonna get back to saying though, is that I really want to make it a strong point to be in my cousin's life. So like with my cousin Maddie, who we were just on the trip on, I'm making a habit of reaching out to her twice a week. I reached out to her on Monday. I reached out to her on Tuesday when we got back, and she had off on for Columbus Day. And I was like, "How was school? How was your first day back?" And she was like, "It was rough." We just had this whole conversation. I sent her like all these pictures and stuff. I said, "Hey, save my number." I was like, "We're gonna keep in touch," kind of thing. I said it again. I fucking said it again. God damn it.
You were aware of it in that moment. That's great. You noticed it right after.
Yeah, no, but I want to catch it before.
Yeah, but that's the process of change. We're watching change in live action.
Watching live action, and it's just one of those things. Like, I'm so grateful to realize that, and I really, that's something I really want to work on, because I think we get so caught up in our own lives sometimes that we forget that we're important in other people's lives, especially the younger ones, because like they're fine, they have their friends, like they don't care. And then I have to think back to when I was a kid and I go, no, like my uncles and I wanted to be around the older kids all the time. I didn't care about my friends half the time. Like my friends are great. But if my older cousin was like, you want to come up for the weekend? I'm like, yes. Do you want to? I was like, what are we going to do? He's like, I don't know. You can come with me to a high school party. I'm like, I'm 8. They're going to let me? He goes, it's fine. And I would go to these high school parties with my cousin and show me boobies, and he wouldn't let me drink beer and anything like that. But I got to like play Sega in the living room while there's a fucking frat party going on, kind of thing. And it's some of the best times of my life. And I want to be able to do that for my not take them to parties, but I want to have fun with them and take them places. And I also told Maddie like, hey, like this summer you're more than welcome to come hang out for the weekends. You live up in Syracuse, so it's like a trek.
Oh,
But like, I'll meet you guys halfway to pick you up, kind of thing. Like, I said again, to just pick you up.
period.
Period. I want to say it so bad. Oh man, it's like it's fighting to come out now. It's, it's so hard. But moral of the story is like, I just really want to make my free time. I want to dedicate my free time more to the people that I love, because it doesn't make sense to just do stuff just for myself. It's great to work on myself and all that stuff, but part of that I feel like is giving back to the people who show me so much love, and I need to reciprocate that with my time. And that's something I learned on this trip.
That's awesome, brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
getting older is kind of sweet.
But you
That's
know,
one thing I appreciate.
there's the realization of these things, right? And then the energy to have an impact on these things. So, you know, you realize you spend enough time with yourself to make these connections, to realize, oh wow, this is what my uncles were to me. I'm the uncle now, right? Like being self-aware in that, but then to make a plan of action and start pursuing it. Like, what's the difference between someone having a thought like this and not pursuing a change versus someone pursuing a change? Is the impact that they have on everyone around them, right? So that's the part of that, you know, work and self-awareness, you know, like you talk about working on yourself. That's what moves it forward from just like, oh, noticing this little coincidence that, oh, I'm an uncle now, to like, yo, this is something that I want to have impact in, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to have a plan of reaching out to my niece and nephew twice a week and invite them up. Like all of that is the planning, right? That you're able to do because you've been working on yourself, working on that like awareness and vulnerability and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Talking to you guys is really what sets it off. You guys are my therapy. So it's just talking every fucking weekend now. It makes me realize things, and I have to then edit it, and I have to hear myself say it a few times. I'm like, you know what? You should start practicing what you preach sometimes, buddy.
You know, that's interesting because one of the big things that I talk about with like, in order to create change is like, you notice that you become aware of it in a moment. But then like, I really believe in like journaling, right? Where you sit and listen to yourself. Basically, you write it down and read it and you listen to yourself, right? Which you get to do because
this is my journaling. This is my journaling. Yeah.
So you have these kind of conversations where you really break things down for yourself and you're like, oh, damn it. And whatever. It's easy to just brush that off, but then you have to revisit it forcefully. And then you're like, shit, I have to do something about it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No,
I love it.
Even like going back to like, I really thought a lot about the meeting yesterday. And thank you guys for like pushing me to talk. Because that's something that I hate doing. Somebody who talks a lot, I fucking hate talking. I hate really talking. I hate having like a serious conversation. I was like, oh, okay, this is why I don't want to do this. And so I appreciate that. And it's something that I do need to work on, especially with having, you know, 2 partners. that I do need to voice my opinion and I do need to just speak up. So
Yeah.
thank you, buddy.
You're welcome. That was also like, you know, with Moses and I when we first started working together, that was the thing. Like he would just shut down. Like, no. And I was like, get in his face. So yesterday, like it was basically that virtually got in your face because I'm like, we're about to hang up. And I'm like, no, Jay, you're not saying something. I can't let you go. I'm sorry, it's in my DNA. and then conveniently you shut off your camera.
No, that's because I got a call. And then for some reason the camera went away and I couldn't figure out how to get it back.
Yeah, like I said, convenently. And then he's just a shadow talking. When you got to get vulnerable.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's another thing I do notice that when I actually get vulnerable, I don't really make eye contact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know what it is. Yeah,
because
I'll say it. I just have to like look at the ceiling while I do it.
Yeah, because it's like looking deep in the eyes. It's like, I'm telling you the deepest, darkest secret of mine. It's like, no, this is scary already. But that's what's necessary. That vulnerability. That and I can't talk enough about it. Like awareness is a big aspect, but then the vulnerability, that combination is like everything that you know. You've seen our concept of change on the website. If you guys watching this, visit VidaProject.com, and we have this downloadable PDF that explains like how change happens. But it's basically the foundation is awareness and vulnerability are the pillars that create. If you want to change something in your life, they need to start from there. Otherwise, it's just something forceful you're trying to do to yourself, which always fails, right?
It's like a crash diet.
Yeah, exactly. Which is being fueled by motivation, which motivation runs out in a little bit, and you're back to square one. So real change requires awareness and vulnerability.
All right, guys, that was another episode of Mindset You. I think we're starting to get in a better groove of things. You could tell just from the conversations that we're having, it just feels like it flows more. So let us know in the comments how you feel and how you like the progression of these podcasts that we're doing. We put a lot of time and effort into this. So like hearing your guys' feedback is super, super helpful. Once again, don't forget to check us out on Spotify, YouTube, everywhere else. I just drew a blank. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, VidaProject.com. It's everywhere. Just go look for us.
By the way,
eventually we'll get back on Instagram. We're all old men and it's really hard to do everything and still be adults. But we will have a social media presence very soon. But until then, check us out everywhere else.
By the way, if you listen to us on Google Podcasts, Google is shutting down Google Podcasts and they're going to transfer it over to YouTube Music. So you can find us there.